Nicholas, my husband, has been acting strange. That's what I thought. So after confirming Nicholas was asleep, I tried to open his mobile phone, but it was locked and I couldn't get in. With no choice left, I gave up on the phone and decided to search through Nicholas's bag and jacket. From the pocket of his wallet, I found a card from an unfamiliar love hotel. In that moment, my suspicions of infidelity turned into conviction. How many times has he cheated now? Who is this other woman? I felt a mix of anger and sadness, my heart nearly bursting. I'm going to find undeniable proof of his affair. Having made up my mind, I went to visit someone very important. My name is Karen. I'm 33 years old and work as a web designer. I'm married, living with my husband Nicholas and our son Edmund. Nicholas works for a regular corporation. We've been married for about 10 years, and I'm still madly in love with Nicholas, who is handsome and sociable. But Nicholas's biggest flaw is his weakness for other women. Ever since we started dating, he has cheated on me numerous times. Each time it creates a difficult situation, but due to my deep love for him, I ultimately forgive him. Plus, I've always thought it's better for Edmund to have his father around, so divorce was never an option for me. Now, however, each time Nicholas cheats, it wounds my heart and erodes my confidence as a woman. During these tough times, my best friend Ryland has been my rock. Ryland and I have known each other since kindergarten. Unlike me, Ryland is still single and enjoying her life. Every time I was cheated on, Ryland would always say, "Nicholas is unbelievable. He's a woman's enemy. No matter how good-looking he is, I could never be with a guy like that." Or, "Anyone who makes Karen cry won't have a good end. Straight to hell," I say. Hearing Ryland trash talk Nicholas always helps clear the turmoil in my heart. Ryland has only met Nicholas a few times, but she's always listened to my stories about him, so she really dislikes him. Ryland has been a standout beauty since we were kids. Even at 33, Ryland is still stunningly beautiful, always dressed fashionably and catching everyone's eye. On the other hand, I've always been the plain one, overshadowed by Ryland. Now, with working and parenting, I've put myself second, and my plainness seems more pronounced. Comparing myself to Ryland, I often fall into self-loathing. I wish I could be as beautiful as Ryland. Maybe then Nicholas would stop cheating. With that thought, I decided to start with dieting. I committed to an hour of walking and restricted my diet, even cutting out my beloved sweets. I also made sure to do some strength training and stretching before bed. Gradually, my weight started to drop, and my body began to look more toned. Thrilled, I said to Nicholas, "Look, I've lost some weight, haven't I?" I asked him. Then Nicholas replied, "Really? Who cares if you lose weight? No one's looking at you anyway. Don't bother," he said with a sleazy smile. "That's terrible. I've been working so hard to become a little bit like Ryland, to be beautiful. You trying to be like Ryland? That's impossible. You're worlds apart." And he just laughed raucously. Then, after his bout of laughter, "But you know, Ryland really is cute. I wish I'd married her instead of you." Nicholas then said, "Too bad for you. Ryland hates you, Nicholas, so that's never happening." I was shocked but managed to respond, "Why does Ryland hate me? That makes no sense. You must have told her something weird, right? That's just low." Nicholas got genuinely angry and said, "But I replied to Ryland, you will always be the cheater who makes her best friend cry. It's natural for her to dislike you." Hearing this, Nicholas sulked and stormed out of the room. Though handsome, Nicholas is quick to anger and tends to cause emotional distress. Worse, when he feels cornered, he shuts everyone out. Once he does, he often doesn't come home for days. I wonder how many days he'll be gone this time. With a heavy sigh, and then my husband left the house again. I texted Ryland. Her reply came quickly. "Nicholas runs away too much, doesn't he? He's definitely with another woman again. Maybe it's time to think about divorce," it read. Divorce, huh? Ryland is suggesting it too. Should I consider divorce if Nicholas cheats again? But I really don't want a divorce. Torn, I decided to seek advice from my mother-in-law, Serenity. She lives nearby and has always treated me like her own daughter. Having lost my parents when I was young, I've always adored Serenity like she's my real mother. I didn't want to upset her, so I never mentioned Nicholas's infidelities before. but maybe getting Serenity to talk some sense into Nicholas would be more effective. I went to Serenity's house and told her everything. Then Serenity let out a big sigh. "He's just like his father," Serenity said, more in dismay than anger. "I'm sorry for the pain Nicholas has caused you." With tears in her eyes, she apologized deeply. "No, it's not your fault, Serenity." Serenity assured me, "I'm always on your side, Karen. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know," Serenity said. I never imagined Nicholas would cheat. He despised his father for doing the same, for being a serial cheater who was rarely home. To think that he's repeating that pattern. I suffered through his father's infidelity, and Nicholas grew up watching that. "What is he thinking?" she shared. I was surprised to learn about Nicholas's past. I told her, "I don't want to divorce Nicholas. Edmund needs his father, and I don't want to lose you either. So, if Nicholas cheats again, I would appreciate it if you could talk to him." I asked for her help, and Serenity replied, "Of course, leave it to me." I felt reassured having such a strong ally by my side. I should have talked to her about this sooner. With these thoughts, I returned home. Nicholas hadn't come back that day, but our son Edmund seemed accustomed to it. Just 7 years old, he asked, "Did Dad run away again?" Sounding dismayed. "Dad's on a business trip," I tried to reassure him. "Mom, you don't have to lie. Dad always leaves when he's angry, but you're not alone, right? You have me." Edmund comforted me. 3 days later, Nicholas finally returned. "I'm home. I'm starving. What's for dinner?" he asked casually, as if nothing unusual had happened, and he seemed in a particularly good mood. "Where have you been?" "I was worried," I said. Sorry, my bad." He hugged me with a smile. Nicholas apologizing on his own was unexpected. Nicholas being unusually kind made me feel uneasy for some reason. Has he found someone new? That was my instinct. I acted normally, but planned to check Nicholas's mobile phone later that night. After Nicholas fell asleep, I tried to open his mobile phone, but it was locked. I tried every password I could think of, but none worked. Reluctantly, I gave up on the phone and started searching through Nicholas's bag and jacket. Then I found a Love Hotel point card in his wallet. This was proof of his infidelity. I was certain of it. I was determined to find undeniable evidence. The next day, I visited Serenity for advice. Serenity suggested, "Not being able to access the mobile phone is tricky. Maybe it's time to hire a detective. Don't worry about the cost. I'll take care of it." Really? Thank you so much. Nicholas's family is wealthy, owning several properties. The condominium we lived in was bought by Serenity, who always provides us with financial support. I'm very grateful to her. So, with Serenity's generous offer, I decided to hire a detective to investigate Nicholas's cheating. But what the detective found was shocking. "What is this? It can't be true." I was speechless looking at the photos the detective handed me. Nicholas's affair partner was none other than my best friend, Ryland. In the photos, Nicholas and Ryland were holding hands, looking like a lovey-dovey couple. I was more shocked by Ryland's betrayal than Nicholas's infidelity, and found myself in a daze. But that wasn't all. Nicholas had been fired from his job a few months ago and was currently unemployed. According to the detective, he spent his days at the casino just killing time. Nicholas had been lying to me, pretending to go to work. Confused, I went to Serenity's house with the evidence. Serenity having an affair with Karen's best friend? How low can he go? She exclaimed angrily. Furthermore, Serenity said, "My husband's mistress was also a friend of mine. I understand exactly how you feel, Karen. Let's make sure these two get what they deserve." And she was determined. "I can't stay with Nicholas anymore. I'm thinking of divorcing him," I said. Serenity replied, "Yes, I think so too. A man like that isn't worth staying with," she said clearly. "Although it's sad not to be family with you anymore, Serenity. Can I still come to visit?" When I asked, Serenity fell silent, lost in thought. Then she said, "Karen, I have a suggestion if you're willing to hear it. I want to be with you more than Nicholas. He is my biological son, but he sees me more like a bank that just gives him money. You, on the other hand, Think of me like a real mother. So, if you divorce Nicholas, would you become my adopted child? That way you could inherit my estate. I'll cut ties with Nicholas. What do you think? She asked. I was stunned by her unexpected proposal, but both Edmund and I loved Serenity dearly, so I was genuinely happy. I eagerly agreed to become her adopted child. Serenity looked pleased. That's wonderful. Let's start the procedures right away. She seemed completely determined. From that day, we began preparing for the divorce. After the divorce, at my request, I would move in with Serenity in her house. The condominium we currently lived in was in Serenity's name, so we decided to sell it secretly, without telling Nicholas. The biggest concern in all of this was Edmund. Taking a father away from a 7-year-old seemed cruel, but Edmund's reaction was straightforward. I'm totally fine without Dad. He's scary when he's angry, and it's better if he's not around, he said. Since Nicholas was often absent, he hadn't built a strong relationship with Edmund. This made it easier for me to decide on the divorce without regrets. Even as we made our preparations, Nicholas, oblivious to everything, continued to secretly meet with Ryland. During this time, I continued to exchange messages with Ryland. I have a new boyfriend. He's really cool, she would brag about her new boyfriend, saying things like this. I thought to myself, that's my husband, even though I replied safely, really? Introduce him to me sometime. Then she sent me, how about you, Karen? It's about time to get divorced and find a new boyfriend. What kind of nerve does she have to send me something like this? I thought she was my best friend, but to be such a person. They must be laughing at me together. Thinking this made me unbearably angry. However, I can't hesitate over this. With Serenity's help, I prepared for the divorce and presented Nicholas with the divorce papers at the right time. When Nicholas saw the divorce papers, he was surprised. What's this? Nicholas said, surprised. Isn't it obvious? I want a divorce. When I said that, Nicholas let out a deep sigh. There you go with your hysteria again. You're such a hassle. Keep up that attitude and you'll regret it. You're cheating again, aren't you? When I said this, he replied, so what? It's your fault for being cheated on. Getting divorced over an affair is just overreacting. Nicholas laughed dismissively. Then Serenity, who had been waiting quietly in the next room, burst in with great force and slapped Nicholas across the face. Why are you here, Mom? Nicholas asked, hand on his cheek, looking shocked. I was supposed to come in later, but I couldn't stand your disgusting words. You're truly worthless. Have some shame, Serenity scolded Nicholas with a fury I had never seen before. Nicholas retorted angrily in response. Shut up. This has nothing to do with you. Old people should mind their own business. Just then the doorbell rang. I hurried to open the front door and found Ryland standing there with a cake. Thanks for inviting me today, Ryland said cheerfully. I had lied about throwing a surprise party for Nicholas to get Ryland to come over. Seeing Ryland act so normally despite her affair scared me. When I led Ryland into the room, she sensed the tense atmosphere. What's going on here? She asked, her face contorting. Do you have something to tell me, Ryland? I have all the evidence. I confronted her, slamming the photos on the table. God, it's weird that someone as ugly as you married Nicholas anyway. He chooses me in the end, poor Karen. She began to insult me openly. Ryland, I'm disappointed in you. You can have him just as you wished. I don't need someone like him. What? You're not serious about the divorce, are you? Nicholas looked at me in disbelief. I'm serious. It's over between us. I'm leaving this place, I said firmly. Hearing this, Nicholas seemed slightly panicked and blurted out, If we divorce, I won't pay any alimony or child support, he began, but I replied, Do as you please, I don't need your money. Just give me the divorce. He fell silent, surprised by my response. Ryland, who had been listening, laughed mockingly. Karen is such a good person, but it's good. Looks like a peaceful divorce. When you leave, I'll move in here, so hurry up and go, she said happily. I ignored Ryland and urged Nicholas, If you don't want to pay alimony or child support, sign the divorce papers now before I change my mind. Why is this happening? He started to cry, but under the stern glares from Serenity, myself, and Ryland, He reluctantly began to write the divorce papers. After watching Nicholas complete the divorce papers, I said, "This makes us strangers. I'll take custody of Edmund. Don't interfere in our lives anymore," I emphasized firmly. Serenity also informed Nicholas, "I'm cutting ties with you too, Nicholas. You're not welcome in our house anymore. Enjoy your life with that vulgar woman." "Vulgar? Just get out now that you're strangers." Ryland forcefully kicked us out of the house. A few weeks later, I received an angry call from Ryland on my mobile phone. "What do you mean when you sold the condominium? This is a joke." I received an angry phone call. Apparently, Ryland had moved into the condo soon after, but she and Nicholas had been kicked out. The condo was in Serenity's name. She sold it. "What? It wasn't Nicholas's? I've been deceived and he's unemployed." I didn't know that Ryland was still complaining, but I quietly hung up and immediately blocked her number. The next day, Nicholas visited Serenity's house, seeing me there. "Why are you here?" He was astonished. "Because it's my house now." "Your house? It's not your house, it's mine." Nicholas started to yell, but Serenity clearly stated to him, "No, Karen is now my adopted daughter, so it's her house. We've severed our ties with you, so you don't belong here anymore." "What? Please don't say that. Actually, I need money," Nicholas pleaded desperately. "If you need money, get a job," Serenity advised. "It's urgent. I have debts, and I need to pay them off this week," Nicholas revealed, but his plea fell on deaf ears as Serenity coldly said, "That's your responsibility. Sort it out yourself." Serenity said this, and then closed the front door. Serenity and I already knew about his debts from the detective's investigation. That's why I was eager to divorce him quickly. I felt lucky to have pushed the debt-ridden Nicholas onto Ryland. Later, I managed to demand and receive a substantial settlement from Ryland. I later found out that Ryland had repeatedly been involved in affairs with married individuals. Apparently, Ryland had an affair with her boss at the company she worked for, and when this was recently discovered, she was fired. Now, she was being harassed by Nicholas's debt collectors, demanding she pay his debts. Meanwhile, Nicholas, abandoned by his family, was working multiple part-time jobs, leading a miserable life burdened by debt repayments. I once saw him in town, his hair turned completely white from stress. He must be leading a very difficult life. Knowing their fates, I was truly grateful to have separated from Nicholas. I now live a peaceful life with Serenity and Edmund. Serenity and I have a great relationship, like a real mother and daughter. I hope the three of us can continue to live